Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Urban Stages Artist Chat. Today, I have an amazing woman to chat with. I did a little research on her, and I'm not only excited about talking to her, I'm really honored that she's spending some time with us today. So let me ask you, Miss Trazana Beverly, how does a Tony Obie and Drama Desk Award-winning actress of stage and screen become involved with urban stages? I mean, how did that happen?
Oh my goodness. I've known Frances for years. We go way, way back. And of course, when you are a new a new and young actress on the scene, you look for anywhere you can get some work.
Mhm.
And my goodness, Frances Hill and I go so far back. I believe I started out doing some of her library programs because I also write. And I believe I was doing poetry. I did excerpts from a one woman show about Sojourner Truth, and other things that I've done that, I used to participate in her library programs. And then she realized that I was also a director, so I directed some of her shows at Urban Stages. And then most recently, I would say over the past, I would say at least 10 years, I've been on stage. I
Mhm.
did Mabel Mercer with her, and you know, directed any number of productions for Frances. So over the years, we've developed a true rapport with each other. I remember when her theater was, I believe it was on the Upper East Side. It was somewhere around Park Avenue, somewhere around there. But as I said, you're a young actress and you're just looking for anywhere you can work. And Frances has always been one of those people who has been very, very inviting. She just loves theater and she loves people.
Yeah, she's an amazing lady. I mean, she's the force that drives this. Her and those three other incredible women in that office just create everything
Yes,
that
they
Urban
do.
Stages is. It's so impressive. I'm
Yes,
so
they
proud
do.
that to be kind of a little bit of part of their world right now. She's an
Yes.
awesome woman. As a young actress, tell me what it's like, because most of us, I would venture to say, most all of us watching this have never had the privilege and the joy of stepping on a stage to accept a Tony. What was that like for you?
Oh my goodness gracious.
I
Oh,
want to live in your shoes.
oh, you can just imagine what that's like. Was really it was so awesome. I'm a graduate of NYU School for the Arts. Now at that time it was still the School for the Arts. Now it's Tisch School for
Tish,
the
right?
Arts.
Yeah.
They had just basically created that school, and I mean I had great teachers. These were people who were masters like Lloyd Richards and Kristen Linkletter, who you probably know just recently passed away.
Right.
And the list goes on of the great teachers that I had. I had a gentleman named Omar Shapley who worked with Paul Sills and Viola May um, uh, at Viola Spolin, I'm sorry, and Elaine May at Second City. He taught theater games at NYU. And I really took to his work. I've always been a physical actress. And I took to his work, quite adamantly. And he accompanied me to the Tonys, and NYU provided me with a limousine. And
Ooh.
my parents came up from Baltimore. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. And they came up, and it was just an awesome experience. Now that my award, my acceptance speech is on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and I've since gone back and looked at it. I look at it from time to time, and I truly looked like that deer in the headlights. I was so scared.
I bet.
I was so scared, and I said, if I get another one, and I think that I will, um, it'll be interesting to see, how I have become more comfortable with myself.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a new experience, and I mean, you're around all of these quote unquote star type people,
Right.
And you know, you have no orientation. So I mean, I slammed my little purse down in poor Omar's crotch and just got up, and you know, when you know, it was so funny, but it was, and of
Were you
course,
able to remember taking it in, or was it kind of a blur?
that's a
Did you
good
live,
question. I
huh?
don't know. That's the first time I've been asked that question. I don't know. I know I look very frightened. I look very scared.
Because sometimes, like, I have to remind myself to look up, see where I am, and take it in, because otherwise it's just, this, and you say, we should put that clip up with this to let people see. If you're
Yeah,
if
you
you're
should
that
do.
would be fun. I'm going to
You
put that
should
clip
you
up
should do that, because
with
you
this
could.
interview.
It's up there, you know, and it's a wonderful treat
Good.
to
I'll
go
have
back
to do
and look
that. I'll
at
make
it.
sure
You
that
know.
happens. Now, I want
Okay.
to ask you about teaching. You teach at SUNY right now, and you're teaching acting. And in this new pandemic virtual world, how is that going? Are we doing it on Zoom? How many students do you have?
Yes.
How
Yeah.
does it working?
I have 19 students, and the pandemic came in just, I would say, about a month before we broke for the summer.
Oh,
So I had at least a month, maybe a month and a half of classes online with my students. And unfortunately, you know, my mother passed away during all of
oh,
this.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, and so I had to deal with that. So I didn't see them right away. And it was very interesting because the gentleman who was the head of the program, he was kind of teaching them for me for a few weeks. So when they came to me, oh, they poor little babies. They were like, Mama has left the nest. Where is she? You know how children get. It's like, we
I
don't
do.
know what to do. I
Yeah.
said,
Especially when they're
oh,
used to that loving care from you.
I
Yeah.
know. Right, right. You know, they're used to a particular voice, a particular style. And so I told him, I said, don't worry, it's really going to be okay. And don't you know, we settled in. We had some wonderful classes. We had some wonderful classes online. We made that thing work.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
after.
mostly in the world of cabaret, and I'm learning, like, as you can see behind me, I've set up a virtual cabaret. And,
Yes, I
so
see
I'm
that.
learning outside of the box ways to continue to perform. Speaking of outside of the box, I saw that you produced and directed a full female cast of Othello. Where did that
Yes.
come from? I mean, how did you think of that? And it was very successful from what I read.
Yes, yes, yes. This is a producer. Her name is Deborah Ann Bird. She is the artistic producer of a theater company called Take Wing and Soar. And you know, of course, she's a Cuban a black woman, and you know, she does productions that feature plays by black authors, etc. But she's also a classical actress. In fact, that's her forte. She loves to do classical work. And I had, and you could put this up on your screen too. I did a male Lear for her,
Okay. Okay.
which I consider one of my best performances. And I did that Lear with her, and I think that probably stimulated the idea of doing an all-female Othello. And we had a wonderful time.
It's genius. It's genius.
Yeah, we had a
I
wonderful time.
yeah. What, how are you faring? Are you alone in your apartment? Are you with someone? How are you faring during this pandemic in terms of the
Well,
isolation and
well,
everything?
you know, the irony is because you know, I'm self-employed as
Hmm.
an artist. I do a lot of writing. And, you know, of course, because I've had to sit here and teach my class online and everything, I'm really very used to being at home at my desk.
Hmm.
And, you know, I'm a single woman, and it doesn't bother me a bit. You know, if I need to get up and go out and get some fresh air, I do that, go to the market. I have piano here because I sing too. And so you know, I live here, and
Hmm.
I'm okay with it. I don't have much of a problem. I mean, and then unfortunately, I have at least three couples very close to me who live very close by. So I can go visit when I need to. And I have a car, and I can get my car and I can drive someplace. So I'm doing okay.
Good. Um, I I feel badly if I don't ask about your mom. She passed during the pandemic. Were you able to give her a memorial
Oh,
or
I had a very, very, very special experience with that. If I may call you Sue.
please do. My
Okay.
goodness.
My mother passed away just on the ebb of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, they were just closing down places. You can't go here, you can't go there. I dropped everything because my mom was in Baltimore and I'm up here in Jersey. I I couldn't see her at first because she was in the hospital. She was losing oxygen, and at first they told me I couldn't see her because they were testing her for the virus. Well, you can imagine. There's my mother, and she's in isolation, and I could only see her through a screen,
Mm.
a monitor. But she came up negative, and they allowed me to see her and my niece and my nephew. And because it was really a kind of end of life situation, she was at University Hospital and they allowed us to go into her room. I was able, and I prayed so heavily. I asked God to please bless me to be able to hold my mother. I wanted to hold her.
Hmm.
And I have no shame. I mean, I really cried out to God, please let me hold my mother.
Mm.
And he did. I held my mother. I spent the last night of her life with her. I sang to her because I understand that the hearing is the last to
It
go.
is.
And people said, Trazana, sing to your mother, sing to your mother. And I sang to her. And the last morning of her life, the minister came and gave her her last rites. I saw my mother. My mother was still alive, but she was, she was really out,
Hmm.
gone at that time. I mean, mentally, she was just there. But at least I saw her, I held her, and I was able to have a funeral. We did a live stream, and we had about 20 people in the church, but we had a funeral. We took her out to the cemetery. We gave mommy a full burial.
Mm.
And I know that because after that, it was very short. So many people were not able to have that kind of
Yeah,
closure.
right.
But, I know that that was something that God knew I needed.
Hmm.
I needed that.
I had a similar thing with my father. He literally woke up out of a coma, basically said I love you and went right back in, and I consider it like an angel passing, and I
Yes.
consider it I don't know, I felt like it's such, they bring us into this world, and for us to have the honor and privilege of seeing them out of it, it's just such a special moment. I'm so glad you had that because, as you just said, so many people who lost people to COVID were saying goodbye. I mean, I'm welling up as the
I
thought of
know. I
saying
know.
goodbye, not being able to touch someone is beyond. So I'm so glad that you had that moment with her. How beautiful.
It,
It's
it
a
was
beautiful memory to
it
have.
was something that I will treasure, take with me for the rest of my
And
life.
that she knows and she knew you were there. She
Yeah,
just knew, you know.
she knew that, because they told me, they said, Trazana, she ain't going to go nowhere until you get home. We
I
know that.
I actually think that's why my dad came out of the coma. I think he just waited. I was in New York, he's in Connecticut, and I think he just waited. And that was, I think I even wrote a piece about it for Urban Stages, as a matter of fact. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
tell me about your writing. What are you working on? Are you working on a one-woman play? Are you working on something vehicle? When you said you're going to win another Tony, what did you mean by that?
Well, I'm lobbying to do the the adaptation of Mother Courage that Antizaki wrote. Antizaki,
Fantastic.
the writer, the young woman who wrote For Colored Girls,
Right.
who passed away a few years ago. She was
Yeah.
very sick, but she did an adaptation of Brecht's Mother Courage that I had the pleasure. I did the original at Center Stage some years ago, and I had just come out of For Colored Girls. I was very young at the time. I might have been in my early 30s, and that's pretty young to play that woman. But I did her at Center Stage, and then Joe Papp and his associates came down to Center Stage and asked me if I would like to understudy Gloria Foster in the Black adaptation of Mother Courage, and or play the prostitute. And being a young actress, you know, what do you know? I said, I don't want to be no prostitute. So I went up in there and did understudied. But at any rate, um, and for young actors who might be listening to this program, you have an opportunity to be on stage, because it's murder to be sitting in the wings
Mm-hmm.
watching someone else do a role that you've done. Antozaki has written a brilliant adaptation of Brecht's Mother Courage, and she has said it in the Civil War. It's
Mm-hmm.
the Black Mother Courage. And I'm lobbying to do that again. The Brecht estate has released the rights to lease,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not going to be long before, you know, all kinds of rep companies around the country are going to be doing it, and I want to have an opportunity to play that woman in that adaptation. So that might be the one, but I've always had a feeling I'd get another one. Always had the feeling. But I'm working at my writing right now, and actually, it's getting ready to be posted on Zoom. I have written a play called A Song for Mara, the story of a homeless woman. I had, it's a theater dance piece. I wrote the original draft in 97. And one of my private students said to me a couple of years ago, he went out to California and he said, Miss Trazana, I have been doing monologues from your play and people are asking me who wrote this play. He said, I want to lobby this play for a film. And I said, well, Okono, his name is Okono Dixon, and he deserves a plug. I said, Okono, let me go back and revisit this script. And I did last year. And I put meat on the bones, and we're working on a demo now for it. And it's so current because this woman whose name was Mara Jones, and she's fictional, but she was born in the South. She married a young African American man from Morehouse College in Atlanta, which is one of the best Black colleges for Black men in the
Mm-hmm.
South. They ran away together, they eloped and came to New York, and he ends up becoming a Black Panther. And the theme is he is trying to encourage her to uh, honor herself, trust herself, use her talents, dream big. I think he has a premonition that he's not going to be around much. And he
Mm-hmm.
says to her, what if I'm not here to protect you? What if I'm not here to help you? Well, she ends up joining the freedom marches, okay? And she really gets herself caught in a funnel, a real funnel. It's set in the mid 60s and the mid 70s. Well, you know, that was a very turbulent time. It's very similar to what's going
I
on
was
now.
just going to say, you know, unfortunately,
It's very
how much
similar
has
to
changed? Not much.
very
Yeah.
similar to what's
Yeah.
going on now.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create a backstory for a homeless woman, because I look at homeless people and I say to myself, you know, you're somebody's child. You
There's
had
a
a life.
story. There's a
There's a
story.
story there. That didn't just happen.
Mm-hmm.
And there, but for the grace of God, go any of
Any of
us.
us. Yep.
And so I've given this woman a backstory, and we see how she ends up on the streets, because she really goes through hell. She tried. She started out with a family, with security, with dreams. She was anybody's kid, young girl in her 20s, having a good time, and then all of a sudden, I say Rosa Parks refused to sit in the back of the bus, and that kind of harmony was over. And with her husband being a Panther, and then, you know, her being a freedom marches and her child, you know, being dragged. She took her child to the freedom marches. She's being dragged in the streets. Her son is home by himself. She just becomes so vulnerable to these elements.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see how it would happen. She just did not know what to do. She couldn't go any further. And so and her child runs away. her daughter runs away. So it's a very poignant story.
It's
It's
also
a
very timely. I mean,
very
even though it's
timely.
set in the 60s, I think all the messages will carry forward. And if there's anything good to come out of these horrific circumstances that we're living through in terms of Black Lives Matter and all these horrific things that have been happening to these people, hopefully it will be another wave of heightened awareness for all of us. And I think a play, maybe that's your Tony winner. Maybe you're going to win for being a playwright. Who knows?
You know, who knows which way it's going to come. Frances said that she would like to have us do it online. And so I'm working on that,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, looking for opportunities to do it around. I'm reaching out to some theater companies now, and it would be a wonderful fundraiser for any company or organization. I think of Black Lives Matter. I think of Mothers of the Movement. There's so many
There's so
organizations
many,
that could
yeah.
use this piece. And you know, when you think about it, Sue, it's like I said, I started rewriting it about a year ago, and I go, wow, for such a time as this. I mean, it's ready.
Yeah.
It's ready.
I'm going to ask you one last question. This flew by. I can do like 2 hours with you. You're a fascinating human being, separate from being who you are.
Oh, bless your
Um,
heart.
oh, seriously. I mean, with the history that you have in your life is just astounding. Is there a mentor advice? I mean, you're now a mentor to students. Was there some
Yes.
advice that you had gotten as a young person that carried you somewhere else, that stays with you and that you now teach and play forward to your students?
Well, interestingly enough, what you have just said, when I came through with Colored Girls, I have to tell you, I was so green. I I didn't have a clue as to what I had and where I could go. And I always tell my students, you must, you must have a mentor, people who are not your friends, not your peers, somebody who has had an experience with the business, who knows more than you know, who can help you navigate uncharted waters.
And give you the truth and not just blow
Absolutely.
smoke. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, one or two people like that in your life that you can trust and go to
Mhm.
help you. I didn't have anybody like that. And subsequently, there was some opportunities that I missed. And I've had to put that in perspective. It hurts, it's painful because I had opportunities that I did not know that it was an opportunity. You've got to know when the wave is coming. You've got to know how to ride the wave because, as you well know, it's a very fickle
Mhm.
business.
Mhm.
And I also tell my students, this is not a sprint. This is a long distance run. And you have got to understand that some young actors, you know, I have actors, I did some work at Juilliard for some years, and I see them on screen now. Some of them very young, they get out of school, they may be out of school 1 or 2 years, and all of a sudden you see them on TV.
Mhm.
Well, that's the exception. That's the exception.
Got to pay your
Most
dues.
That's right. Most of us in this business have been in it for a long time, and we learn how to pace and run the race and do it because we have to do it. We don't
Mhm.
have any choice. It's almost like a calling to be an artist.
Mhm.
And if you don't get it right away, don't feel bad. I mean, because first of all, if you're a young actor, who knows who you are? It's going to take time for you to build up a resume.
Mhm.
And then sometimes you have mountaintop experiences, and sometimes you're in the valley, and you have to know how to navigate both rivers.
Gotcha.
Both.
Gotcha.
It's about endurance.
It is about endurance. Well, I just want to thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today on Urban Stages Artist Chats. You're an amazing woman. I'm so delighted that I got to meet you, hopefully soon in person.
Indeed, I'd love to meet you.
I'd love to meet you as well. Thank you. I am going to, we're going to put this up on on the Urban Stages website, and I will do a
Okay.
link for a couple of your pieces that we spoke about.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for being with us today.
All
We
right,
look
thank
forward to
you.
meeting you.